intention is everything. You have an amazing relationship because you know where it's going. And setting intention is like setting a goal of some sort. That's what it is. Each day, all day, for each of your relationships, right? It's not like you'd go into work and just think, oh, I want to be happy here. Or, in your love relationship, I just want to be happy. It's not enough. You need to get specific, right? They say, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. That's what happens when you're not specific. So you need to be very clear about what you want, and setting intention is the way to do it. When you change your intention, your actions change. That's what happens. So, and I think a difficult piece for a lot of my clients and other people to understand is that, again, you need to focus on what you want and not what you don't want. And so I do want to say this when it comes to intention, okay? Number one, you got to stop complaining. When you're complaining, you are putting a lot of attention on something unwanted because you don't complain. That's the whole point of complaining. You're not talking about something you want. So you're putting a lot of attention on something unwanted. And you are literally kind of setting an intention without realizing it. You're setting an intention of noticing the thing you don't like. That's what you're doing right there. You're setting an intention. I'm going to notice all day long this thing that I already don't like that I'm telling all my friends about. What happens with complaining, like any other activity, and again, I did a whole episode on complaining, so I'll also link that in the podcast notes in the episode, but like any other activity, when you complain, when you do anything, it activates neurons in the brain, and it trains them to remember the pattern. So every time you complain, you're teaching your brain to fire the same mental pattern, which creates neural pathways just for complaining about Ted at work or how ungrateful your spouse is or whatever it is. You literally start making highways in your brain for that. Every time you do something or have a thought repeatedly, you're wiring your brain. You don't have a choice. Don't have a choice about it. What you do have a choice about is what you wire it for. We say what fires together, wires together. Hebert, famous neurologist, said that first. But when you're wiring your brain, when you're thinking about things, that's all you're doing. It's why people get really good, let's say, at playing guitar. If I don't play guitar. So if I sat down to play, it would be tough, right? I don't have any neural programming for it. But if I practiced every single day playing guitar, I'd get better and better and better and better. That's what happens. If you keep practicing, you get better because the neural pathways get laid. And now the neural pathways have sex. No, just kidding. They get laid. Hey, I can make jokes. Hang in there. So they get laid down, right? You're making these roads in your brain, and you start to really put pavement on them and really, get them really entrenched. And then obviously people can become, guitar virtuosos or whatever, like if you do it enough. That's how the brain works. It gets easier over time. You can wire your brain for video games. You can wire it for a lot of things by what you repeat. Okay. So if you're complaining, same thing. You're wiring it. You're going to get excellent at it, just like you would if you practice guitar every day. So stop it. Okay. And learn how to stop complaining. Listen to the other episode. The other thing I want you to stop doing, so you have to stop complaining. And the other thing, to set intention well and to really get a hold of your attention, okay, is stop telling the same story about your relationship. Just the stories, or about your life or whatever. Stop telling the same story, because when you repeat that story over and over, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because your brain has a confirmation bias, which means you'll look for evidence to prove yourself right. I know. So there has to be a place where you stop. I should say you stop telling the negative stories. If you want to tell positive stories, tell them all day. Tell the wonderful stories all day. But when you just, it really, and that takes me into, when you say things like, he never does X, she does Y all the time, and this is not something you like. again, you're training your brain to look for those things. You're telling it to pay a lot of attention to that and to look for it. And our brains can't think in the negative. So what you focus on, you get. If you focus on, I don't want debt, all your brain hears is, I want debt, 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 debt. When you say, I wish my mother would stop nagging me, your brain hears, oh, my mother's nagging me, my mother's nagging me. Look for nagging, look for nagging. That's how it works. And you're going to see it. You're going to see proof of it over and over. Your brain just thinks with the messages you give it. That's all it does. So instead of thinking and focusing on what you don't want, you got to think and focus on what you do want. Not only will you get to where you want to go, but you're going to feel better. Because remember, we feel the way we think. This in turn will have you acting differently. And that brings so much more of what you want anyway. And I'm going to repeat something now that I've, talked about quite a bit, which is that our brains process information at a rate of 50 bits per second, while our conscious brains, while our unconscious brains process information at a rate of 11 million bits per second. So people are hearing what you mean, not always what you say. So your words don't always mean a lot. It's what's behind there. And if that's the emotion behind it, what you're really feeling. In the same way that when someone is bullshitting you, you can tell usually, because you can kind of pick up on it. They're saying all the right things, but you pick up on something else. So this is happening as you're going out in the world. If you're complaining, you're just like, well, I didn't say anything to them. I didn't let them know I was upset. Yeah, they knew. You knew, they knew, everybody knew. Who wants to know? They might have ignored it, but they know. People pick up on this stuff. So you have to remember that. You've really got to align and make sure that you're unconscious, that you're really sending it these messages over and over to look for good things. That other thing that I've talked about a million times is your reticular activating system, or your RAS for short, which is a conduit, a message center between your conscious and your unconscious mind. So when you think something consciously, your RAS, your reticular activating system, sends it to your unconscious as a message to look for that thing. So if I'm complaining about something, oh, my partner always never says thank you. They never say thank you. They don't appreciate me. And I'm talking about that over and over. I'm telling all the stories about how true it is. Guess what happens? My RAS sends that as an order to my subconscious to look for my partner not appreciating me. And it'll find it. It'll find evidence everywhere. And here's the scary part of your RAS. It will filter out anything that doesn't match. So when your partner is appreciative, when they do say thank you, when they do tell you how great you are, you won't notice. You are Teflon for the good. And this part, you're thinking to yourself, that's not true. That can't. Yes, it's true. Your brain, this is what it does. You don't realize it, but it is. It doesn't make it any less true just because you don't realize it. You know this is true because you've had a fight with your partner or at work or with a friend where you said something like, you don't appreciate me. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, thank you yesterday for this. And I went out and got you this gift and I did this and I did that. And you just dismiss it. You don't go, oh, you're right. You really appreciate me. You don't. I know because I'm in couple sessions with you or I'm listening to you on my end. You're like, well, that didn't count or this is this. You make what you think true. You make it true. That's, again, that confirmation bias. So you have psychological things working against you, like confirmation bias, and you have physical, biological things working against you, like this 50 versus 11 million bits and your RAS. I know. And this frequency and recency in the brain. So you've got to work on it. You've got to be thinking often, right? And here's how you do it, getting back to that frequency and recency. So if you set intention often, it will help you and help your attention. These are when the two things kind of come together. It will help your attention focus on what's good, what you do want, where you're going, and it'll align those 50 and 11 million bits. That's what's so great about it. It'll get you in that state. And setting intention is easy. I call it the 18-second shift. I've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again. I actually have a fabulous video on this on YouTube called the 18-second shift. And why do I call it the 18-second shift? Because I've timed it, because I'm insane, because I'm a nutty Jewish mother, crazy therapist person. And I timed it. I think I timed it like 50 times that one. I've done this a few times where I'll time it over and over to see, and it takes an average. It always comes back to about 18 seconds. So if you don't have 18 seconds, I love you, but I can't help you. I'm not sure what to say anymore. I really aren't. I'm really not. 18 seconds. And literally, all you got to do is you stop whatever you're doing. Maybe take a little breath. You don't even have to do it that special if you don't want to. And you set intention. That's what you do. So I've talked about this before. I set intention, I set intention before I did this episode today. I sat in my office. I'm here in my office, my fabulous office. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. I sat down, and before I sit down, I jump up and down here in my office. Yes, I do. Then I sit down, I reapply my makeup and, make sure my hair looks cute. And then I set intention. My intention is to be of great service. My intention today was to be really thoughtful about what I was saying and not repeat myself. Make sure that I was really intentional and not repeating myself more than I wanted to. I knew there's always some things I repeat on purpose, believe it or not, because people need to hear things a few times to get it. But I don't want to, really repeat and, the same thing over and over like I'm doing right now. I just noticed it. Mindful. So I set intention to be loving, to be kind. Like, this is what I do. When I get to my car, before I drive away, I set an intention to drive safe. That's what I do. And to be calm and to be happy. Before I pick up my daughter from softball practice, which I'm going to do later, I sit in the car. I'm waiting for her. I'm setting an intention to give her my full attention when she gets in the car, to not be distracted by anything else. Again, do your intention with what you want, not what you don't want. So I don't set an intention of don't be distracted. That's not. I set an intention of giving her my full, undivided, loving, embraced attention. Sometimes my intention is to be fun, to be connecting, to be enthusiastic, to have high energy. I set intention for all kinds of things. Gary and I have a date later. I'm going to set an intention to be sexy. You better believe it, baby. That's right. I'm going to set I'm telling you right now. Gary doesn't listen, so we can talk about him. I'm going to set an intention to flirt. Yes, I am. I'm going to set an intention to really have fun, to really connect, to make sure that the whole time we're together, that I give him my undivided attention. That's what I'm going to do. And I set intention multiple times a day, like all day long. Pretty much every time. I call this intention chunking. And again, I did a whole episode on it. But I think about each point in the day and where I can, anytime I kind of am switching an activity, I try to set intention. So think of yourself right now before you walk in the door, at the end of the day, if you work outside your home and you come home, before you see your kids, before you see everybody, instead of, I'm thinking about work and all the things, and I rush in the house and I just want to get my feet up, or I just want to do this and I got to start dinner, whatever it is. Instead, you stop, sit in your car for a minute, or on your bike, or on your walk in, whatever, and just stop before you get in the door. I'm setting an intention to be patient. Patient is one I set a lot because I'm a little impatient. I know you didn't notice that, so I'm giving you a big window into me. I set intention to be patient a lot, to be thoughtful, to slow my roll. I do that a lot because I move kind of fast. So when you come in the house with that 50 versus 11 million bits, boy, people pick up on it. They know, they can feel you. Trust me, what's interesting? I've worked with a few, I guess you would call them supermodels. I've had a couple supermodels. I have one right now in my practice. But I've had a few over the years, 3 or 4, I would say. I don't know if supermodels is the right word, but the one for sure. But certainly very high paid models. Like, this is what they do for a living. And you know what they do when they model is they always make sure that there's a thought in their head. They don't just think about nothing. So if they're, walking down Victoria's Secret runway, you better believe they're thinking about sex. They're thinking that they are sex, that they want to have sex, that they're, that's what they're they're not there thinking about how bored they are. Trust me. Or they wouldn't be doing very well. The best model, they have thoughts in their head. They're thinking, like, who's my character here? What am I doing right here? What's my intention? And that's what carries through a photo. that's what carries through. Because when you've seen bad models, how you can tell that it's like, ew. It's actually cringeworthy a little bit when you see a picture with a bad model. It doesn't feel good. It feels like, ugh, like you can kind of see it. And it's the same way if somebody's not acting well, you can kind of hear them saying the lines. It's not fun. And so, because there's a thought involved, they're really embodying something. And that's what I want you to do. So when you bring that into your home, when you bring that into your work, do that before you get into your job. When you bring that before you start a new project or switch tasks to a new meeting, imagine doing that before you go into that meeting you hate. That meeting you just can't stand? Yeah, set an intention before you go in. Things work out differently. I've even trained most of the people I work with to change the culture at work where everybody sets an intention before the meeting, to go around and say, hey, what's everybody's intention right now in this meeting? What do you want to do? And meetings are more productive. People are happier in them. They go faster. Yeah. Because people are more, again, their attention gets focused. And now the intention is there. And that's where those two things marry and magic friggin' happens. So if you're looking to feel happy, to transform your moments and what's happening in your life, this is what you do. You focus on your attention and getting it in the here and now and being with wherever you are, and you set intention as often as possible.